This book was born 4 years ago on a day when I had sudden cardiac arrest. And that was a light switch event in my life, obviously, but the day before I had been told I had perfect health at my annual physical. And so subsequently I struggled for my life, went through 4 heart operations, several complications, including blood clots in the lungs and my chest. And I found my life very different. A few months later, my time away from corporate world ultimately resulted in me leaving my job of 35 years in the financial services industry. And I was alone, and I was sick, and I was not healthy and strong anymore. So I decided to go to a park, a forest near my home, and began walking. And an odd thing happened, and this is when Fox World, literally word one, was written. An old fox, and today that fox is 12 years old, then he was 9, I'd saved him as a pup. And I'd noticed him or seen him over the years. He had some distinctive markings, so I could always tell it was him. He was waiting on the path for me, my first day of what I called my cardiac rehab, beyond the one I did at the Mayo Clinic. And I told my wife I was going to walk a mile with him, and I made it 55 steps before I collapsed. And my wife, being a loving, doting wife, said, "No more, you're not walking, let's go back to the hospital and finish this." And I said, okay. But the next morning I kept thinking about that fox was there. What was that? Was it a sign? Was it just nothing? Just he was hungry and maybe thought we had something to share. I went back the next day and he was there. I went back the next day and he was there. And all of a sudden I realized maybe these walks were something that would help me gain strength and maybe kind of figure out the next part of my life, because I've always been an animal lover. I've been very active in dog rescue for shelter dogs with my wife. We have a small fund we call the Lucky Jack Fund that we pay their medical bills to get them out of shelters. But this was about me. For the first time I was alone, and I could see my career in its final phases. And I wanted to, quite selfishly, just walk and explore and be something other than a corporate executive. And that's what I did for the next 14 months and 500 miles. Mr. Fox, as we call him, showed up every day. We went through a lot of, it was the year of the greatest rainfall in the state of Virginia ever on record. It was one of the hottest summers ever. I had additional heart surgery work that needed to be done that I hadn't had already. Mr. Fox had a coyote attack him. He developed sarcoptic mange. He had other injuries that you would expect, a 9-year-old fox. And by the way, the average lifespan of a fox in the wild is 5 years. And he had lived 9, and now today, as we film this, he's 12. And he just fathered, and his mate just delivered new pups 2 weeks ago. But we had a lot of challenges, and that's really what I think it's that hardness and the resiliency you either develop or don't develop to address it that lead to an epiphany of what you want in life and what you maybe have missed in life. And that's when I began to see Fox World shaping up as a book. I was keeping a travel log, writing about my daily experiences with the fox. I posted some of it. It got a following, but I'm not a writer. I never thought writing a book would be something I would do. But I think I more channeled the book than wrote it. And I began to figure out that if I published a book that was a travel log and said, I did this and me and my, it's of some interest to a few people on social media. But what if we wrote it as a third-person novel? And what if we let the fox tell part of the story? Because he did a lot of talking to me. And you can either choose to believe that or not, but I do, because I'm better today as a result of it. better mentally and certainly physically. And a lot of times I wanted to quit, he encouraged me to keep going. And so I took the quiet time during the quiet time in America for all of us the last couple of years to recraft the novel into third person. And then it read like a story. The biggest challenge we faced was one we didn't expect. And it's one that every single person, whether you read this book or not, is going to encounter if you choose to do so. And I hope you do. At some point, Mr. Fox's forest, which, by the way, let me just stop and describe it. It's about a 2-mile long forest, maybe half-mile wide at its widest part. It's in an urban area, a very urban area. It's got several land ownerships, very complex with, and I won't describe them because I don't tell where it is, but let me just say it is a combination of corporate, government, and possibly foundations that crisscross this land. And as a result, the land kinda is subject to the latest development whim or infrastructure improvement, for the local government. And someone said something once when I was trying to help Mr. Fox and his forest, which really angered me, and it got me to get off my butt and help the animals, the inhabitants of this forest. And they said, "Hey, whatever, I need a new yard, my kid needs a swing set, I want to widen my driveway. What's the difference? The animals will go somewhere else." Well, that's true until they can't. And then that really got to me at a visceral level to say, what can we do and how can we fight back? And if I walked in this forest and got better as a result of being with this fox and enjoying their quiet world of solitude, where a lot of teaching goes on, that if you step outside for more than a cup of coffee on the edge of the woods, you can't help but dial into, I felt I had to help. And so I started working with local authorities, trying to form a coalition, and we talk about it at the end of the book. The book's not about that, but it's a fitting capstone to the book because you can make significant difference if you just speak up and stand up. And Mr. Fox gave me the impetus to do that.